The Angstrom Dayan Megaminx. I've been solving on it for a couple weeks now. Really trying to form a well thought out opinion of how I like it and how it performs. Now, if your question is whether or not you should buy it, hopefully this video will answer that question as well as some others. I've been doing a lot of solves on the Angstrom research live on my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/michaelchailatte. Go ahead and drop a follow if you want to engage, chill, have a good time, and vibe. Where we just interact with each other. And before we move on with this review, I just want to give a huge shout out and a thank you to thecubicle.com for sending this puzzle out for free for me to review and tell you guys my thoughts on it. Also, if you're in a shopping mood, consider using code CHAI at checkout at thecubicle.com to get a discount on your order, as well as show support for the content in my YouTube and my Twitch streams. Now, going back to the live streams, if you're watching how I felt about the Dayan versus the Yoohoo V2M, which is the other best Megaminx on the market, you'll know that I consistently tell viewers that if you have large hands, go for the Yoohoo V2, and if you have small hands, or maybe if you're a younger person, go for the Dayan V2M. And then the other prerequisite is if you're on a budget, then that supersedes everything and you want to go for the Yoohoo V2M. Now, with that being said, if you're not on a budget, then you really want to take into consideration whether or not you want a larger puzzle or a smaller/lighter puzzle. And for me, the choice is pretty simple. If I had to choose between the two, I would go for the lighter, go for the smaller puzzle 10 times out of 10. I've been asking for smaller puzzles for the longest time when it comes to Megaminx. That's why I mained the Galaxy V2 over the Yoohoo V2M. The Yoohoo V2M was just not something I could hold on to and not something I could solve on for long sessions at a time. Grinding average of 100s, average of 200s when the day calls for it, when the week calls for it. On the Dayan V2, that type of practice is possible. But this is not just the regular stock Dayan V2M or something I just set up myself. This is the Angstrom Research setup one, so it comes with Lubrical Black in the core, comes with Gravitas, Dignitas, I believe it comes with V2M 37, I'm not exactly sure what they put in there. And this is supposed to be the premium Megaminx, the best Megaminx in the market, something that you cannot replicate by yourself or is very difficult to. Now, when people ask me, I always recommend that people try and set up their puzzles on their own. Part of the experiment that I was trying to figure out is whether or not I could make something similar to the Angstrom Research Dayan by setting something up myself. So they actually sent me out a stock Dayan V2, and I use similar lubricants such as Angstrom Gravitas and Dignitas, and I use Compound 10. I had a little bit of Mystic. I don't even remember if I threw it in there, and it doesn't feel too bad. But there is one thing that I consider with the Angstrom Research that doesn't really apply to other Megaminxes. With this Megaminx, it's at the same time speedy, quick, yet controllable. When I'm making the other Dayan V2s controllable, it tends to not be as quick anymore and not as easy to turn, and it's not as agile. The Angstrom Research somehow manages to retain its speed while also being something that's relatively controllable and something that can stay well put together. However, it doesn't come like that out of the box. See, the reason why I think it's probably as fast as it is probably because of Lubrical Black. Being able to have a core lubricant, from what I hear and I understand, it makes your cube actually faster, is the difference between this cube and the cube that I try to set up. The problem with that is that with Lubrical Black, it tends to stain the surfaces if you open up a cube. And when I got this out of the box, the big problem was how loose it was. And it was so loose to where it felt like there wasn't any magnets in the puzzle at all. It kind of felt like the cube would just always contort. And that is the last thing you want from a Megaminx because there are so many sides to consider. So I actually tried to wrestle with the stock tensions for a long time and just solve through it, and I basically could not get good times on it. I've come to the conclusion that it was the tensions that the cubicle sent that was the issue of my solves, and that's an issue of my own turning style, but I have a suspicion that other people will feel a similar way about the Dayan. If you're interested at what tensions I set up all my Dayans at the moment, the top of the screw is about 1 centimeter under the top of the circular part in the center cap. Upon fixing the tensions, which took about at least 10 quarter turns with the screw, it immediately improved. It still retained its speed. I was still able to control it, and it became much more satisfying to turn and also spam algorithms on. which is what I think is really cool about the Dayan. It still has that really clean, smooth feel that no other puzzle really has. Other puzzles are a little bit too crunchy, or maybe there's not enough substance. Maybe it's like the Galaxy, where it's like a little bit too clean and too quiet. The Dayan is just in between that, like super clacky versus the super smooth, like say for example the Tengyun. So I actually have a final verdict on whether or not I would recommend this Angstrom Research Dayan Megaminx. And I've come to the conclusion that I would recommend it to one type of cuber, and that is the experienced cuber that is not very good at setting up puzzles. Now you may think that, yeah, of course, that's why we have custom puzzles, that's why they buy them. But I also don't want to recommend this to another type of demographic of cuber and a complete beginner. And this is because I don't want a beginner opening up this puzzle to go into the screws and tension it just to get better performance because of the Lubical Black. The same Lubical Black that makes it perform different than anything else I've tried is the same Lubical Black that makes it difficult to recommend to any cuber. The thing about Megaminxes is that if you want to maximize the performance of your Megaminx, it's almost imperative to do a really important setup for it. I really recommend lubing the core with something. It doesn't have to be Lubical Black. You could try Traxxas 50K, you could try the Angstrom Gravitas, but that takes time and it takes effort. So you gotta take it all apart. There's going to be a little bit of flash in that area, so you want to wipe it all down. And when you do that, a lot of the times your Megaminx will perform better. Now, because of how tedious and how time-consuming setting up Megaminxes are, that is why I don't necessarily recommend setting up your Megaminx yourself. So at the end of the day, if you're debating whether or not you want to buy this puzzle, you should probably ask yourself one simple question. Do I have 1 to 2 hours of time to really take an effort into setting up my own Dayan? And if the answer is no, if you feel like you won't be able to pay attention for that amount of time, if you feel like you'll get bored, if you feel like you're going to mess it up because maybe you're not good at setting up puzzles at the beginning, then yeah, I would highly consider picking up this puzzle. There is a markup in the price compared to the stock puzzle. Any custom cube is going to have one, but the value you get of being able to use a cube out of the box is different for everyone. Some people value it very highly and some people will value it very low. And if it means anything to you guys, after adjusting the tensions of this puzzle, I am going to be using the Angstrom Research as my main from here on out. But just to cap off this video, just one quick recommendation. If you do purchase this puzzle, in the comments of your order, I would highly recommend that you ask them to set up the tensions to be a little bit tighter so that you get probably a little bit more of a cohesive solving experience out of the box, and probably maybe have to avoid opening up the Megaminx entirely. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. I kind of wanted to go for something more monologue-y, and then of course you guys watch some solves in the background. But yeah,